My comments on Monday about my experience of being at the rugby test at the DHL Stadium on Saturday, saying that I don't particularly like constant injections of short snatches of songs played at incredibly loud volumes, accompanied by the stadium announcer making really inane remarks equally at very loud volume, the fireworks, all the fun of the fair. It's not to my taste, but it didn't terribly much affect my joy and delight at being in the stadium. Then I spoke to Gina Woodburn, the CEO of the DHL Stadium, yesterday. She said the event aspects are South African rugby's responsibility. So all of that noise and light and inanity is a decision by South African rugby. And there was a lot of comment which kept on going. I was getting messages throughout the day and, in fact, into the evening about it. And my sort of initial feeling was, it's because I'm getting on in years. You know, this is a new way of doing things, and I'm sort of instinctively kind of hidebound conservative when it comes to this sort of stuff. But I was getting a lot of messages from people who were saying, I'm in my late 20s, I'm in my 30s, I'm in my early to mid 40s, and I hate it as well. Dr. David Maralack joins us now with the program in sports management at UCT, a professor in the School of Management Studies where that program resides. David, good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, John.
Is this a global and irreversible trend?
John, the trend has been with us for quite a while, and it has largely positive effects. It's been with us probably from early 2000s, where entertainment, if you look at the Sydney Games in 2000, a lot of it was around sportainment, both during the game as well as post-game, and that has just accelerated over the years. One of the good examples we have, and it's not my favorite sport, I must admit, but Formula One until probably the mid-2015s, 2016s, Formula One was a boring sport. Cars went round and round until they brought in, the pit interviews, lane interactions, and that's all part of the sportainment, where you just get excitement up that make people want to come, whether your driver wins or your team wins or loses. It's part of the entertainment value of you being part of the spectacle, as well as, having enjoyment and so I think it's with us to stay. You see it in just about every sport. So I was also at the game on Saturday, and I must admit that I also had mixed feelings about it, although one understands the logic behind it.
You indicated in your first remarks at the beginning of them that there's good associated with it, that there are positive benefits to having this level of sport entertainment no longer creeping in, but rushing into pretty much all sports. What are the positive benefits?
There are a few, and I guess there are two broad ones. One is just atmosphere and excitement. Now, every sports match, so first of all, entertainment is also part of a broader curated entertainment, series of activities. So, for example, there are a whole host of things that happens before a match. For example, getting people to the stadium earlier so they don't have a crush at the gates. So, for example, at Cape Town Stadium, you will notice that the three different gates have three different atmospheres. If you walk to the main gate, you walk straight into the beer garden. There's a lot of excitement, and it's very close to the party stand. At the other end of the stadium, you may have a more demure crowd, and then you have the kiddies play area. So it's both before the game as well as during the game. So where the entertainment value comes in during a game, it obviously builds atmosphere and excitement. We know that crowd chants, music, cheering to go to any sports match, football match at school. People are cheering, people are chanting, and it just builds up atmosphere. It also athletes thrive on that as well. But I think one of the key aspects is also about social belonging. Is that the collective noise? I mean, and I thought a lot of it was noise on Saturday as well. My daughter of 23 years old didn't agree with me, but the point is, that both of us found it interesting because there was a built-in identity and group cohesion. So, for example, we are Stormers and, the Stormers chant. So those are the positive aspects. And the point that you raised is obviously, and this is where it's very challenging for event managers, is you're trying to manage on a curvilinear platform where you say that a match can't be too flat. It can't also irritate other people at the other extreme. So therefore, we must maximize the positive effect for the most amount of people and serve as least people as possible, effectively.
One of the comments that I got yesterday was from somebody, and then that was backed up with approving comments by other listeners, saying that the noise is so loud that the crowd cheering becomes inaudible, that the players on the field, and one would have to speak to, a wide cross-section of players to find out what their view is, but that what the players are hearing is the music and the stadium announcer. They're not hearing the cheering crowd.
Yes. Look, there have been loads of studies on the effect of noise at matches, and there have been a number of controlled studies as well and it's all about the variation. So what players do thrive on, and there were controlled studies on penalty taking in football where there was loud chanting and there was music in the background, and that helped the player focus. It built up their energies at the same time but once the decibels raised above that, then it did distract them. It did raise their heart rates. It did affect their ability. So therefore, respect the kicker is not only about respect in the normal way, but it also does have a distracting role to play. So I agree with you. The level of noise certainly has an impact with regards to my enjoyability and other people's as well. But it's all about the variation of it and how you control the various noise areas in the game. So, for example, if it's a low area in a game, that you will try to pump up the music. Sometimes an injury can last between 5 and 7 minutes, and then you will pump up the music just to keep people interested and excited, and so on. But at the same time, during the game, I also want to watch the game and not be interrupted by loud noise.
Dr. David Maralack, Head of Department, Professor in the School of Management Studies at UCT. Because the first few kicks that James O'Connor, the Aussie fly half, took at goal, they put up on the screens, respect the spores, respect the kicker. And generally the stadium was relatively quiet. But towards the end, as the game was getting more tense and an Australian victory was again looking likely, then the booing was really loud and he missed kicks. So I had this feeling, I mean, this is not a scientific conclusion at all, but I had the feeling that he was converting the penalties and try conversions in the first 2/3 of the game in relative silence, and then was put off by the extremely loud and intense booing, and then missed what was 2 penalties and a conversion. So the 8-point margin of victory that South Africa had was the 8 points that James O'Connor didn't put on the board as a result of missing kicks. And during those kicks, there was a lot of stadium noise.